Ladies and gentlemen, in today's video, going to go over the rise and fall of Kris Bryant. Now, this one is near and dear to my heart because I am a Kris Bryant fan. I was and I am a Kris Bryant fan. Obviously, Kris Bryant today is not the player he once was a decade ago, but nonetheless, I grew up rooting for this guy on the Cubbies back in their mini dynasty. I mean, it really wasn't a dynasty, but on the Cubs' rise to their World Series run. I mean, this guy was at the front hold of that. He was like the top player in baseball, one of the most popular players in baseball. The Cubbies, everybody loved them. You know, Bryant, Rizzo, Baez. One day, they just were never the same. And that is just one of the greatest mysteries in the game of baseball, looking back as to what happened to the Cubs and why didn't they win all those championships. And I guess that could be part of a broader video, but in today's video, just gonna talk about Kris Bryant. Kris Bryant debuted in 2015 with the Chicago Cubs and was one of the top prospects coming up in the Cubs system. We all knew about Kris Bryant. He wasn't this random, ho-hum prospect. No, this was a star prospect in Kris Bryant. He immediately took over the reins at third base and cemented himself as an everyday player and lived up to the hype in that 2015 rookie season, where he played 151 games, tallying 154 hits, and on his way to winning Rookie of the Year in that 2015 rookie season, appearing in the All-Star game in Cincinnati. He also did have nearly 200 strikeouts with 199 strikeouts in that rookie season, so he struck out a ton, but nonetheless, he was Rookie of the Year, and this was a great start to a potential Hall of Fame career. I know it's only his first season, but this guy had the makings of that kind of player. 2016, 155 games, scores 121 runs with a 554 slugging, and this was a career year for Kris Bryant, where he goes on in his second big league season, winning National League MVP, appearing in the All-Star game, winning a World Series championship in 2016. This was the dream season for Kris Bryant, and quite frankly, the peak of his career only in year two. He goes on to win the MVP. He wins in the same year the World Series, breaking the 100-year drought for the Chicago Cubs in Game 7 over the Indians. Just a phenomenal season for the Cubbies that year. They took down the Dodgers en route to that. It was like drought versus drought. The Dodgers had a good drought at that time, and the Cubs obviously had a really good drought. So, it was drought versus drought. Somebody was going to be in the World Series, and it was the Cubs' year that year. But of course, Kris Bryant made that final out play over to Rizzo right at first base. Joe Buck with the historic call. Bryant, it's going to be a tough play. The Cubs win the World Series. Again, like, Kris Bryant was my guy, and I have a Cubs jersey. I plan to get it with the Kris Bryant on the back. Like he was my guy, man, and it's really a shame to see how far he has fallen. 2017, plays in 151 games, so he's playing a really good amount of games. Obviously, tallies 38 doubles, 95 walks, finishes top 10 in the MVP voting at 7. So still another really solid year. In 2017, did Kris Bryant have the Cubs? Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, they just never got back to their winning ways, and it was just kind of weird. I think I should probably look back at that, but yeah, the Cubs never got back to their winning ways, and I'm going to say it was pitching the bigger part of it. I mean, they never really had an ace streak. Arrieta had like a fluke season, but other than that, the Cubs never had a really great pitching staff. So if I had to imagine, it was probably because of the pitching. Just never was good and never has been good for the Cubs. 2018, 102 games played for Kris Bryant, so he's starting to experience some injuries, and he tallies a 272 average with an 834 OPS, 3 triples. So 2018, he gets some injuries, and this is the beginning of a injury-riddled career for Kris Bryant, if you will, in 2018. But he bounces back in 2019 nicely with 147 games, 31 home runs. He hit 30-plus home runs a couple of times in his career, tallies a 903 OPS, and appears in the All-Star game in 2019. So another bounce back year for Bryant. All is well. The Cubs aren't really winning, making deep postseason runs, but all is well in Chicago. No need to panic at this point. Still a really solid player in the game of baseball at that point in 2019. 2020 COVID happens and he plays 34 games with 27 hits and 40 strikeouts. So that season was a complete wash for Bryant's, although the Cubs did make the playoffs that year and they got knocked out by the Marlins of all teams. 2021 happens and Bryant's his last good season. So if you want to rewatch Kris Bryant videos of his like peak, you would be seeing the final of his peak in 2021 when he plays 144 games, tallies 32 doubles with 73 ribbies and 135 strikeouts. Kris Bryant would get traded, and that would be the breakup of the Cubs. Bryant, Rizzo, and Baez, they would all break up at that point in 21. They all get traded at the trade deadline, off on their ways, and Bryant would head to San Francisco, where he would join a Giants team that was quite historic that season, and they would eventually lose to the Dodgers in 5 games in that DS. It was a hell of a series. I was super excited to be a part of that series. And so yeah, we saw Kris Bryant in a Giants uniform in 2021, where he'd be going into free agency in 2022, looking to get a big contract, and that he would get. He would get a big contract. Entering that free agency, even as a Dodger fan, like I would have liked Kris Bryant. I mean, we saw Kris Bryant play left field for the Giants there in 2021. I wasn't really hoping to sign Kris Bryant as a left fielder. But I would like Kris Bryant on my team because, of course, I would like Kris Bryant on my team. But he ends up signing with the Colorado Rockies, and this was a move that nobody really had predicted, like going into that season, like, oh, he's going to go to the Rockies. Like, nobody really said that. And he ends up signing with Colorado, a team that wasn't really in contention at that time, and obviously still is not in contention now. And this is a signing that I think both parties may or may not regret. Now obviously Kris Bryant is getting paid $27 million per year AAV. That is going to take a bite out of the Rockies paycheck, and this guy Kris Bryant has played a combined in 3 seasons in Colorado. He has played a combined 154 games in 3 seasons, so he is the Anthony Rendon that nobody's talking about, for being quite honest here. Not even 162 games in 3 years with the Rockies, telling a 260 average, 750 OPS, and 17 home runs. In Coors Field, 17 home runs. I don't know what happened to this guy. Again, injuries obviously a big part of what has gone wrong with Kris Bryant. I mean, just a slew of injuries with the Rockies. 2023, he's played 80 games in Colorado. That was the highest he's played so far. So it really is a shame to see how far Kris Bryant has fallen, playing left field for the Rockies for some time. And, it just has not worked out with the Rockies, and I'm not sure we're ever going to see Kris Bryant's get back to the level that he once was. I mean, he is on the hook in Colorado until 2028 season. Let me know your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section about Kris Bryant and the whole career of Kris Bryant, but it is a sad one to look back on.